Yeah. Man, forget this job, dog. Yeah. Working this graveyard shift, I hate it. 6 in the morning, I'm off, I made it. When I get home, I'ma make this clear. First thing I'ma drink is a Rainier beer. I ain't no lush, shut up.
Hello, it's Adam Morrison. When it comes to top-tier contracting, my go-to choice is McGillivray Environmental. I know a thing or two about excellence, and that's exactly what you'll find with Kip McGillivray and his team. They're not just any contractor, they're the best in Spokane and North Idaho. From start to finish, they ensure your project is completed with the highest quality results. With years of experience and expertise, they handle it all. New construction, meticulous repairs, asphalt paving for residential and commercial properties, excavation, and even environmental remediation. So why wait? Reach out to Kip McGillivray Environmental today by calling 208-556-6384 for your free estimate. Don't forget to mention my name, Adam Morrison, and experience the difference McGillivray Environmental brings to the table. Again, that's 208-556-6384, McGillivray Environmental. My number one choice for all my contracting needs.
The podcast intro song is Get Up by Jinx Universe. Listen to his music on Spotify and follow him on social media at I am Jinx Universe.
Yeah. Man, forget this job, dog. Yeah. Working this graveyard shift, I hate it. 6 in the morning, I'm off, I made it. When I get home, I'ma make this clear. First thing
Welcome to
I'ma
The Perimeter,
drink is
Season
a
4,
Rainier
Episode
beer.
19, presented by McGillivray Environmental, Idaho Central Credit Union. Good week for Gonzaga. 2 wins, one on the road, one at home. LMU, Pacific, they're not the top of the league, but after loss to St. Mary's, it was nice to kind of get back on track. And then obviously we've talked about we don't have much room to slip, especially in the quad 3, quad 4 situations. If we had a loss like that, then it would get kind of nervous for bracketology and all those things, which we'll start to progress talking into that when our picture becomes a little more defined on where we have us. And obviously we rely on like Lenardi and some of the other bracketologists. They're pretty spot on, for the most part, because they deep dive in the analytics. I do a little bit, but I'm not, like a basketball nerd. I like hoops, but like there's a limit I'm not going to go into and what's seeding and region and all that. I'll just listen to the experts and convey the message and give you my opinion. But, we had the game at LMU at home, and it was kind of a really boring first half. Really bad basketball in general as a crew. Scoring it being 27-24, and I know I commented on the air, if anybody listened to the radio broadcast, but with 10:30 to go in the second media timeout, LMU had 5 field goal attempts. They were 2 for 5 at that point because they had like 8 turnovers, and it was like, oh my God. And we weren't like capitalizing on the other end. It was like bad. I mean, it was like paint chip off the rim after every miss.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just yuck. And, it was one of those where like, you don't want to be negative all the time, but it's like, can somebody score for either team? Like, I'm just getting to that point where, I start, obviously I watch a lot of basketball. And also, I try not to be a snob and be like, well, back in my day, I would have made those. But when it's like 27-24, you're like, oh, my God. And then, I watch high school basketball with my daughter playing and then my nephew. And it's high school basketball. It's not, it's fun to watch and you love it, but there's some bad moments. And so when you go watch a high-level D1 game and you see the same stuff, that's when it's like, oh, my God, like I have to watch this. Thanks to... So, yeah, that first half was it was absolutely brutal. I mean, good job by our guys of getting a lead. And I never thought LMU was like in contention to win. I thought Stan Johnson has a great plan. They beat us, was it either last year or the year before? They broke our like 75 game win streak or whatever. So he has a good plan. And we blew him out, almost a month exactly earlier, January 5th down there. But he has a kind of a scheme to slow the game down and play really physical, put the onus on the officials. And I thought he did that. Not overly impressed with their offensive prowess. And then obviously not overly impressed with how much he talks to the officials, but I'll just leave it at that. I'm surprised he gets a technical foul. And look, he's coaching his tail off, and they're way better this year. I think what was their record, like 16-8 or 16-9, like compared to last year. Like they're playing better basketball, and you always have to put things into context when you see programs like that. It's not, the counter is like, well, they're not playing anybody. So you have to schedule what your personnel is, and you have to build from somewhere. And so I think he's done a good job, and he coaches his tail off, but he wears his emotions on his sleeve. And I think he was really close a couple times to get a technical. Like I saw officials, where they grab the whistle and like look at him, like, come on, say one more thing, like say when. Yeah. And he would like toe the line, and I give credit to the officials, but it was, I could hear most of it. Obviously being on the floor, and he was telling guys they were ridiculous and call that, and then just browbeating the official. And
was he just like one cuss word away from like
one cuss word? And then like the thing that I don't understand is when coaches, and this is not just because it's somebody that's not wearing a Gonzaga jersey. And obviously I coach. I don't coach Division I basketball, but I've coached enough and been around. Obviously winning programs and stuff. I don't understand when you complain after every call. Yeah. And and he was coaching his tail off, and there's nothing against him. And I like Coach Romar on that staff, and he's done a good job. But I think he got away from himself a little bit in that first half where he was complaining every call, and they warned their bench like 2 or 3 times. So my point is like that never helps your cause. But to counter that, it's like, he's saying, hey, look, my personnel is probably not as good. Obviously, it's nothing against those kids. And I'm trying to build something, and I'm coaching my ass off. Shut up. So like, I get it, but like, I was just sitting there like, holy smokes, this guy's ready to get one. But in that first half, they did a good job of really, making it difficult for us. We shot 9 of 24 in the first half for 38%, 2 of 13 from 3. I'll talk about this after I go over the Pacific game real quick, just our woes from the 3-point line and what I think it means for us long term. We probably got 10 games left or in totality if like counting conference and all that stuff. And then obviously who knows if we make the NCAA tournament, which I think we will, but I'm just saying I don't like to be the guarantee guy. Yeah. What that means and what that does, personnel wise, and how scheme and how different teams defend us. And I know it sounds so easy. Well, if you make shots a lot easier, of course, but if you at least have the threat of making shots, what that does to the inside game, what it does to your pick and roll coverages, on the offensive side, going against defense, does it mean they have to tag your rollers? Do they, can they overhelp? Can they overhelp on Braden and Graham when they catch inside? that's a real thing. Forces you to get your post touches lower, because if you can't, if you're catching at 14 and there's a guy, nail elbow box, basically you're going to have hands where you're going to put the ball on the floor. And then if you spray it out, it's not going in. It's really easy to guard. So that was a concern in the first half. But like I said, I didn't feel like LMU was could win the game, if that makes sense. But it was an ugly one. They were 10 for 30. So do the math, 19 of 54, both teams combined. It was bad. It was bad. It was a bad game. It was one of those games too where, we were always sold out. But there were some empty seats, and then, there's some seats where you see like, oh, new people there, and you're like, oh man, this sucks if this is your first and only game you've ever come to. Just the first half,
the first half, yeah.
You're just like,
absolutely.
Oh my God, like just in totality of good basketball. Like I'm a guy too, and if you listen to my broadcast, I'll root for the other team if they're playing good basketball. Not like overly, but I'm like, oh, that's a nice play. Like, yeah, oh, this guy's cooking. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'd rather watch that than just bad.
Than crap, right?
So going into the second half, obviously there had to be changes, but then I felt like we were just out of rhythm, and it wasn't like non-inspired basketball. So I got to make sure I'm saying it the right way, because some of our issue in the past is not that they don't care, but just the energy level wasn't there. The energy level was there, just ball wasn't going to the cup. And so I got to make sure I'm saying that the right way, and that's the honest truth. And I meant, 2-3 episodes ago, I hammered him during the Oregon State and Santa Clara, kind of deal, so like on their defensive acumen and paying attention. That wasn't the case. So, like, great defense. Just ball wasn't going in the cup. And then the second half, we took control of the game, ended up winning by 20. Nembhard had a terrific game. He had 15 points, 9 assists. Khalif Battle had such a weird game, man. Like, he had 24, but he was 4 for 13, but goes 15 of 16 from the line.
Yeah.
So credit to him and has 6 rebounds for making free throws, but he hasn't shot the basketball particularly well from the field. But I've said it numerous times, and I believe it to be true. If you're not shooting well, but you're still kind of getting to your numbers, and it has a level of efficiency in that regards, you can't really hammer it, right? You're still trying to get your numbers, and you're given the productivity. It's kind of an NBA thought process, but productivity from that position. Braden Huff was terrific, 14 points, 6 of 10, 8 rebounds as well. He was good, and then that was about it. Graham played okay, 8. Yeah, so it was a weird game. We shoot 43% total overall, 2 for 18 from 3. Obviously not very good. So 1 for 11 and 1 for 7 total.
Yeah.
So that's yuck. We go 15 of 15 from the free throw line in the second half. We started getting a better whistle, and I think it was the correct whistle. I mean, their whole game plan was play extremely physical, and I get it. But it got to be where, that's a foul. That's a foul. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, holy shit, come on, call the fouls, guys. Like, you can't just push people off their line or use 2 hands in the post, all that stuff when you're backing in. They started calling them. We knocked down free throws. But it was a long, boring game for a long stretch. There was just no rhythm offensively at all. Both teams are in the bonus in the second half, and it was just like a free throw contest. And, but hey, it's a win after a St. Mary's loss, so you got to play who's in front of you, and you can't always be. We need to play the gauntlet of everybody. It's like, no, okay, we needed to win, and we won at home and protected our home court, and our guys did a good job of Sonwood. And ended up getting a 20-point win. So I'm a firm believer, and Coach V used to always say it, and I believe it, and I try to do it when I coach, is you always celebrate wins. You know what I mean? Especially right after the game. Then you can come back later and talk about what you did or did not do well. But I'm always a believer in celebrate wins. Even if you didn't look good, didn't feel good right after the game, then later we can hammer you on what we need to do. And so that's how I felt after that game. It's like, well, it didn't feel the greatest, but we won by 20. And let's move on and get to the next one. And, we're firmly in third place, but nipping at San Francisco's heels. And I'll go over the standings in a second. And so I was happy. And then we obviously go down to Pacific. Weird place to play. By the way, I got to remind people, 2017, the team that went to lost to Baylor, or 2017, the team that lost to Carolina, was down 9 in the second half down there. Like, we've had some weird games down there. I remember Wiltshire had to go bonkers down there, 45 or whatever the heck he had to win, and those were really good teams. So, like, every time we play down there, it never looks really good. We've never, like, been, like, firing on all cylinders, if my memory serves, or there's been more, well, that was an okay game, then like, holy shit, we didn't miss, and we're flying up the court. And so just, watching the game and going through it, it was like, let's just get out of this dump and move on, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, oh my God. So, same thing, like, didn't shoot the ball particularly well in the first half. Ended up being up 15, which was fine, but Pacific is really bad. I hate to say that, but they're not very good.
Yeah,
really bad. I think at one point they were like, 5 for 20 or something in the first half, or just something gross. You know what I mean? Like, just awful. They ended up shooting 27% in the first half. We didn't shoot much better for 40, but at least we got the 4 by our name.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then 3 for 13 in the first half, 5 for 22 overall from 3. And I don't know. It's going to be something that we're going to have to continue to monitor. Guys are getting open shots, in the game. Khalif Battle goes 1 for 6 for 3. He has 16 points, makes all 9 of his free throws, goes 3 for 11. So, again, productivity, but the efficiency is not as good as he'd probably want it to be, and that's just the truth. I'm just looking at the numbers and, not hammering the kid. I think he's done a good job of getting over the little slump he went through, and then not starting, and now he's starting again. You know what I mean? So okay, hey, you're back. You'll string some together. He has the ability to. Graham was terrific, 6 of 9, 13 points. Nolan's back on track, 12 points, 4 for 4 from the free throw line. Chente came off the bench, didn't score, but he's defender type. Braden Huff was good again, 17 points on 7 of 10. So yeah, it was an interesting game, and like I said, it's kind of one of those places you just want to get out of there.
Yeah,
it's a weird atmosphere. It's like a JC gym, and that's not a knock. My dad coached JC for 20 years, but it's just a concrete brick with a gym in the middle of it. There's no atmosphere. There's no history as far as like hoops besides Oloa Candy from 1998 or whatever.
Oh, right, yeah.
And that's not a knock, but it's just feels like a Big West school or whatever. Yeah, I mean, so
yeah,
it's a little bit kind of the black sheep, I guess, of the West Coast Conference in the basketball sense. I don't know how they are in the other sports, but it's one of those where we never really play good down there. It's never really sold out. You know what I mean? It's just a weird...
Yeah, there's like a ton of empty seats. And
it's just a weird deal. It really is. And every time you go to the game, you're like, man, this is just odd. It doesn't mean, we're like the Beatles whenever it's got to be like pouring out the seams. But like, you'll go to a game, you're like, in years past, like, do you realize like just like number 7 Gonzaga is playing tonight in this town? Like what else is there to do on Thursday or whatever? And it'll be like 60% full, and you're just like,
you can buy tickets literally for like $4.
Yeah, it's just a weird atmosphere. But again, I think we only have to play them once, which is that weird unbalanced schedule. But what's so weird is we have to go to their place to play them. The WCC scheduling this year has been so odd, and I have a conspiracy theory about it, but I don't know if it's true, but it feels like they're just like.
To bring it up, I was talking with my brother about the games and like LMU, and LMU's in Spokane. The most logical place for them to go next is WSU, and that's not where they were at.
I know.
It's like it is bizarre, the scheduling.
It's been we did Oregon State, came back home, and then went back to Portland.
Yeah, and
then we did that 3-game stretch where we played UCLA, but we played. Somebody, and then we went back home, and then we came back and played LMU instead of just playing Pep, LMU, and then going home. Yeah. Like we played somewhere, and then came right back down to LA. Like it was so weird. And I just don't understand my conspiracy theory, and it's probably wrong, is that they're like, well, you guys are leaving the league, F you, right? Yeah. You know what I mean? But I've also heard that the coaches voted for this, and that's not like they get a full say. But I think they get, to vote on this unbalanced or like one-off scheduling. And I'm talking like logistically too. It's not just us. You got to think of the women's side of the game. And their budgets are the same because of Title IX, but it's a non-revenue sport, essentially. And that's not a knock. So spending extra flights and extra days flying back and forth and rebooking hotels just costs money. Yeah. So I'm always just like, why don't you save as much money as you can, and that money stays within the program, then it helps whatever else you want to use it on. Totally. That's where I'm always scratching my head. And that's not just for the women's side. It helps too with some of these schools that are tighter budgets than ours, right? I mean, it's just the reality. Yeah. And also, we're not a Power 5 deal. We have great donors. We have great support staff, the community, all that stuff matters, but you still got to raise that money every year. So like, why not save as much as you can? I don't know. Yeah. So that's where I'm just kind of like, well, why are we doing this? But anyway, nobody cares what, my travel schedule is like, but it just like in totality, it just makes sense. But anyway, two wins in a week.
I wanted to ask you about the LMU game just real quick. I noticed that Dusty and Diagne were scratches from the game for, I think, for illness. Is there just a bug going around? Or I think it was other players sick during that game too that we just didn't know about?
Yeah, that's a good point. Like usually when you have something like that, you try to isolate. This is not rocket science. It's just what anybody else would do in any sickness. Try to isolate, but then usually what happens is you're around each other before you realize you're sick, right? And then the next people up don't realize they're sick until the day after or whatever. And so sometimes that does affect how you perform, because you're like, oh, I'm not sick. And then the next morning you wake up like, man, I had a kind of a weird game last night.
Yeah.
But I felt fine, and now I'm really sick. You know what I mean? So I think that could be a case. Also, too, I think LMU was, the plan was good in the first half, but it was just ugly, gross basketball. But big week coming up with San Francisco, who's firmly in second at 10-3. We're 9-3 in the standings. So if we...
The Perimeter will be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Who's firmly in second at 10-3. We're 9-3 in the standings. So if we win, obviously we'll be in second because they have a game in hand is why they're in second. But we will have a tiebreaker, obviously, if we beat them in a head-to-head. We're 9-3. Santa Clara is right behind at 9-4. But San Francisco gave St. Mary's their first loss. Yeah. 65-64 of the WCC season. So everybody was, we're only 2 games back and theoretically in the loss column with St. Mary's. So this is a massive game Thursday night. San Francisco's terrific. They've given us issues in the past, but we've done a good job more recently. Like last year, we beat the brakes off them twice. And so I think... I like our matchup physicality-wise, but they always are offensively in tune with, our style, and they can play up and down. I think physicality, they don't really match with us. We've done a good job of kind of neutralizing their, fast break opportunities. They're usually really efficient team. They got a kid, Malik Thomas, who's having a great season, 19 points a game. Wow. And then Marcus Williams is averaging 14.5, but... Malik Thomas, like I said, is 47%, then almost 40 from 3, and then gets to the free throw line at 83%. So a really good guard out on the perimeter. That's going to be interesting how we guard him. They like to get up and down. I've talked about it in past seasons. They have the local connection. Kyle Bankhead is still there. Played with me at Gonzaga. I was a freshman. He was a senior. Terrific walk-on player who carved out a good career here. Smart, knows the game, good dude. Coached at UNC Greensboro. Remember that game? It was just my first year broadcasting. The Zach Norvell had to hit that 3 late when we played UNC Greensboro in Carolina, and we were like the 3rd seed, and they had us beat. They threw. If my memory serves, they threw a ball out of bounds on like a breakaway where they had us over the top. And the kids sailed one, and it would have been like a 4-point game. Instead, it was a 2-point game. Ball out, our ball. Then Zach Norvell hits a fucking bad shot 3. God bless Snacks, but it was like enter, and he just shot it, and you're like, oh, yeah, you know what I mean? Like one of those, like good shot, and we ended up winning. And I remember seeing Bankhead after that, and he was so distraught because he just looked at him, and he was like, just one of those like, God damn it, like he had us. He had us. Like he wasn't the head coach, but he had the design. He knew what our tendencies were, all those things, perfectly dialed, and had us. Yeah. And anyway, so he can coach. He knows our scheme. But like I said, in recent past, we've done a good job of kind of out physicality, out toughing them, if that makes sense. And then really using our pace of play because they don't like to play slow either. So it's kind of a weird situation for them. It's like, well, do you want to play completely fast with Gonzaga, which usually doesn't work, or do you want to slow it down, but it takes away from your offensive prowess as well? Yeah. But they just proved that they can play slow against St. Mary's and got a 65-64 win. So I'm not saying they don't have the ability. But this is a great team. 20-6 overall, 15-0 at home. Like I said, 10-3 in conference. Had some really good wins. Just a good, well-coached program. I mean, Todd Golden, before he went to Florida, was that year that they got an at-large. It was the first time 3 teams from the West Coast Conference. So he kind of piggybacked off of Kyle Smith and then Todd Golden. And then I can't remember the coach's name now, but a younger guy, same analytic brain. They're an analytic kind of European style. system. So this is I know we've talked about the St. Mary's game is always mad. This is one of the biggest games we've had this season at home by far, because if we can win it, obviously it turns into a quad 1 or a quad 2 at least, because we're at home. It could be a quad 1 later.
Yeah.
And we would move into second place. And I'll say it again, like finishing in the top 2 is paramount to get that first round bye in the WCC, so you don't have to play that quarterfinal game and then play the, you know what I'm saying? You get that extra rest. You get to really evaluate who you're going to play. It's just paramount. So this is a massive game. I'm excited for it. You know, it's not very often that we have, you know, huge games this late in the season. Usually it's only just St. Mary's, and in the past it was just BYU. It's like, no, this is a big game, and we, you know, kind of have to win this thing. And so I'm really looking forward to it. But they got a terrific program, play great. It's weird though. I think last year they started it, and then this year they're doing it. They moved their game against us into wherever the Warriors play. I can't remember the name of it. The new one in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And it kind of takes away their home court advantage, right? And
Yeah.
I get like it's a money making deal because we have a lot of Bay Area Zag fans. If people listening are not from the Bay Area, like whenever we go to the Bay, like we get a lot of draw. So a lot of Northern California kids, you know, from high schools, the private high schools, go to Gonzaga, blah, blah, and then move back and become adults, whatever, and work. And so we have a lot more fans than people realize. But also, like, that place is hard to play in. We haven't played good there in recent past with some of our better teams. I mean, I remember there was a year we had Rui's crew and all that, and we almost lost. Shimmy's crew almost lost in there. You know what I mean? Where I was like thinking back, I'm like, man, we had the one where Ryan Woolridge had one that he had to make like a layup late. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's been some games recently where like Gino Crandall had to make one too, and it was like, holy shit, like we've barely beaten these guys. So when we play them down there after this week, it's kind of like, thanks for playing us in the wherever the Warriors play, Oracle. It's not Oracle,
It's
but
a Chase Center.
Chase Center. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because we killed them last year in the Chase Center.
Yeah.
But it like takes away their home court advantage. But
It really does.
it does. I get it. It's a money making venture, and believe it or not, you know, I can't stand when fans shouldn't be all about the money. It's like, well, you got to pay the bills,
Right.
God, like stuff costs money. Like you can't. It just doesn't. You know, traveling and hotels and meals and stuff are just not free, and it's not like you're staying at like Super 8s. Okay, like,
Yeah, right, yeah.
right. So I mean, let's just understand that like it's okay to like want to make some money too for your program. Like that's how you pay people. Blah blah blah. So yeah, massive game Thursday night. I'm looking forward to it. You know, hopefully our guys are ready to go, but I think they understand the importance of it. And like I said, this is a good week. It was a good week of getting back on the saddle, understanding that St. Mary's game was a rough one. We had chances to win, but we're not completely out of it. But we can't let some of these other games slip.
Right.
It's gotten to that point to where we really need to understand where we stand nationally and where we stand, you know, as far as Ken Palm and things like that. I mean, we're 13 in Ken Palm, 14 in net, still great. But we also talked about it was last week. Was it last year, 27 in the net with St. John's and didn't make the NCAA tournament.
Right.
So it's not like a guarantee if you're in the top 65 of the net that you're going to make it. Obviously, with not counting out larges, but, you know, you always have to just, hey, keep improving, keep getting better, stack some of these quad 1, quad 2s if you can, because they do matter if it gets down to an at-large situation. But yeah, it's a massive game and a team that's playing well that just beat St. Mary's and gave us some hope for the league title chase. But also, it's one of those deals where, you know, we have to be ready to go. And it's usually a good offensive basketball game against San Francisco both ways.
Yeah.
They play good style. And like I said, Kyle Bankett's a good coach. He'll have the scout on us. He does a good job. Former Zag, old school Zag fans will understand, you know what I mean? Like he's one of ours, good dude, very dry sense of humor, fun to be around. But yeah, Kyle's Kyle, you know what I mean? I mean that in a good way, but he's just, he's never a happy person not in a bad way, but it's always, he's a glass half full guy, which I like. That's why I like him. He's a glass half full pessimist. I'm the same way. So it's like, you just sit there and bitch and moan the whole time. That's, we're in heaven when we do that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Then we got Pep on the weekend. And actually they gave us a good game last time down there, but they haven't been playing well at all.
Right.
So I'm just really looking forward to the San Francisco game. Obviously, you don't look ahead or whatever, but I don't think I needed to break down the potential Pepperdine game. I mean,
Right.
my memory serves, they had that Oliveira kid, the kid from Texas, went off in the second half, and that little guard went off too. But they were all like making tough jumpers and stuff like that. But they were playing harder than they have in the past.
Definitely.
So anyway,
Currently in the West Coast Conference, Pepperdine is 3-8.
yeah.
But they did give us a good game down there. But I don't know.
They're not very good.
Yeah. Exactly. In the 225 in the
What's San Francisco?
They are 66.
Yeah.
And so this will be a quad two. At home. So yeah.
Yeah. So the big week for us, and like I said, it's nice getting back on the saddle, and it's also nice. Hey, we had kind of a weird schedule. We just talked about that, but having having a loss with St. Mary's, and then having two of these games we kind of needed instead of wedging this with, you got to play San Francisco now, and then go to Wazoo right after that. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, this schedule kind of worked out nicely for us. Can recalibrate, get our bearings about us again, and hopefully play good basketball. 3-point shooting, we got to talk about it.
Yeah.
Last game, like I mentioned, let's see, Pacific was 5 for 22, 22%, and then LMU, what did I say, 3 for 18?
Yeah.
2 for 18.
2 for 18,
Yikes.
yeah.
So, yeah, it's something to be curious about. Now, the fix, if there is a fix, it's never, don't shoot them. That's impossible in today's game, the way the offenses run and all of our zoom actions and our sprint up ball screen with space the floor. It's kind of how everybody plays. So you can't completely abandon it. It helps your post game out. It's similar. I know the people listening to this understand hoops, but another good analogy is it's like a running game for a quarterback. It just helps you play action, and if you have a good running game, then it's easier to throw your 8-yard outs instead of when they're just sitting there waiting for you. Right? It's no different in the 3-point. It's like now you have to space out, guard the shooters. Now your little short rolls happen, and then all your spacing. And then you're going against hard closeouts instead of short closeouts, so you can drive and get by guys.
Yeah.
But without sounding too critical, because this is probably the most critical I've been on a whole season, right? Probably with this team than other seasons in the past. Guys got to step up and make shots.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say it. Like, we're getting good looks. They're not usually overly contested or end of clock situations where we're just kind of chucking it up, but guys got to figure out how to rep it out in practice and then go out and be confident. Because when we have that ability to make threes, and when I say ability, it's got to be 35% and above. Like, obviously, you want to be in the 40s. I've talked about that at length. But if you're 35 and above with volume, you can get to the effective field goal percentage.
Right.
It's quick synopsis of effective field goal, like layman's terms. It's kind of like, let's say you go 9 for 25 from 3, but obviously a 3's worth 3. So you got 27 points on 25 shots. So essentially you get a point a shot.
Gotcha.
It's kind of how they view it in a sense. So sometimes if you take a bunch and let's say you go 12 for 30, at first glance, you're like, that's not very good. Be like, oh, fuck, we got 36 points on only 30 shots.
Yeah.
Right? That's the counter to it. That's the analytic view of it. So if we can get to the 35, 36, 37 percentage points on threes, we'll be fine. But the 2 for 18s, the 5 for 22s makes it scary. And what it does is it allows teams to overhelp on the post. Because Graham and Braden, I don't care how good you are, need spacing to operate. Allows them to double team more. And then it just makes your pick and roll stuff not as potent, because you can tag the roller and jam stuff up and then still close out theoretically late and contest. And if they're not going in, then you can do that. Now, if they're going in and you're punishing that, overhelping, low hole, all that stuff, then it's like, well, shit, we got to space out. And then Ryan Nembhard has all the space.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then he can hit the short roll, and then Graham and Braden are catching with no hands in the paint, and it's just one-on-one basketball. I like our chances then, right? We have pretty good post players, but when they got to catch out at 18 feet and there's a double team coming, or there's a sag from the strong side, and where there's a hand in where you're going to put the ball down on the floor, it's hard. Yep. So hopefully the 3-point shooting improves. It could just be a lull. I don't think it's lack of talent in that regard. But guys got to start making shots. Right. I mean, just in totality. I mean, they just do. Got to snap it off with confidence and let it rip. So
we haven't brought up this name in almost 2 years because he has not been able to play with the team, but Venters, like, I mean, he obviously hurt himself in August before the season was even kind of a thought. We're getting to that point. But I mean, I guess the team is it was pretty formed by then. Yeah. But they're missing him, obviously.
Yeah, he definitely would have helped. Now, we have to be fair. The last time we saw him was, he was Big Sky Player of the Year. It was terrific. Right. 2 years ago. Yeah. But he didn't. I think the only thing he played with us was the battle or the kennel thing, or the craziness in the kennel. So I haven't seen enough to be honest about my assessment. Now, and theoretically, would he help us? Absolutely, because I think he was a career 40-pointer, 40% three-point shooter. Obviously, he's a Big Sky Player of the Year. He can play. He's got a good body type, good kid, floor spacer, like all the stuff I just talked about. Yeah. So, yeah, it would have helped. But in theory, I mean, Nolan's a good three-point shooter. Totally. Khalif Battle is. Dusty Stromer are... Braden Huff is, as far as smaller volume. Ben Gregg was terrific last year from three.
That's true, yeah.
Right? And he had a good stretch recently, but he had a bad start to the season from three. So, yeah, it's just one of those situations, kind of like the free throws last year. You just got to step up and make them. I mean, the shots that we're getting from three aren't bad, and I would say if they were scheme-wise bad, but they're not. Right. So I don't know, but it's something that's concerning because the last 4 or 5 games, they haven't been good. When you go 3 for 17 against St. Mary's, let's just say if we go 6 for 17, win the fucking game. Yep. Game over. And then we're talking about being 1 game behind St. Mary's with a really good quad 1 road win. We're probably like, well, shit, we probably a 6 seed already. Let's move up. You know what I mean? Now, so some of it is just hitting shots. And when I say that, I'm always trying to skirt the line of being critical or just sounding narcissistic in the sense of, well, I made them, but I was only 40%, or I think I was 38, 39 my junior year. I wasn't a good 3-point shooter my freshman and sophomore year. High school, same thing. So I get it. Like, I was never like a catch and rip, and I was more of a scorer, drive it, take it, shoot floaters. But the game was different back then. You could shoot mid ranges. You know what I mean? Now they discourage it. You could shoot fadeaways. Like, that was part of the game. Now it's like either 3 or layup. That's kind of, and you see how all the kids are trained. It's kind of weird because you never see kids shoot pull-ups, and if they do, you're like, well, I haven't seen them shoot a pull-up in 7 games. It used to be like, shoot the 15-footer. It's a better shot than a 19-9. What are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, it's just a different mindset. Yeah. But also, if that's going to be your thing, as a player in a floor space, you gotta make it. Yeah, I don't know how else to say it, because we've had some bad stretches from the 3-point line, and it really affects how you are defended. And if people listening to this, next time you watch how they defend the inside presence, just how the defenses are rotating and how much they are helping is what you need to see. And then on the screen and roll action, what's the guy guarding the corner guy or the weak side at the 45 free throw line extended? How far in help is he? That'll tell you how much a team believes in your ability to shoot the three, and then how much they believe in, if we throw it short roll to our big, how much can we, help, or how much can we defend it? Now, if they're sagging a ton, we don't want you to throw a short roll and we'll gamble with you shooting 3. In years past, when we've had the Kispert teams and those teams that were just like, holy shit, they make like 7 in a row. That short roll was open because you couldn't fucking help. Right. Or if you did, it would be like 3 ball, and then you look up, you're like, shit, it's 20-5. What the hell happened? You know what I mean? And then you're out of the game. So, I don't know.
That is a good. Well, hopefully they can right the ship on that.
I know exactly.
Yeah.
It's one of those deals where it's easy to point the finger, but also like if you want to get rolling offensively and change some of the outcome of these games and blow people out, it's from the 3-point line.
Yeah,
and it's not one of those where I'm saying, NBA style, let's shoot 40 of them, because that's not fun basketball. And college basketball is obviously different. And our main strength, besides having one of the best point guards in the country, is our two bigs are really good. Like first team all league type and all American type and Karl Malone Award, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like both of them are that talented. So you got to throw it to them, and they need to have touches, and you need to play off the post. But if you don't make threes, like I said, it's like, all right, now we can stack the box, put 8 men in the box, and still hand it off. Good luck, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of the analogy. And so hopefully it changes, and it's something that we still need to keep monitoring. I'll still talk about it. But it's kind of like the free throw thing in the last couple of years where everybody kept writing in and complaining. And it's like, what do you do? And it's like, slap them on the butt and said, go get them, Tiger. Like, I don't know, you can't really... Scheme-wise, you're getting good shots. So that's the thing. Like, there's not anything you can draw up to get wide-ass open threes. This is college basketball, you know what I mean? You're going to have to make some with some slight contests, you know what I mean, or whatever. Like, you just have to. Like, it's not middle school or high school where you're going to have some, kids that are just dumb on defense and don't know what the hell they're doing and get wide-open shots. So,
a question that actually comes from a kind of connects with this is someone mentioned on YouTube is, in my opinion, the success or failure of the season.
The Perimeter will be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Kind of connects with this is someone mentioned on YouTube is, in my opinion, the success or failure of the season rests on the shoulders of Nolan Hickman. And I don't feel like that's true, but
no.
But he is our 3-point shooter.
Yeah.
So,
well, I guess,
right?
Well, I guess if obviously if he's shooting the ball better, it helps. But he's had not great shooting nights, and we've still won. And he's had great shooting nights, and we've lost. So I don't know if that's a proper assessment. Yeah. If it all rests on his shoulders. I mean, other guys are taking threes and not making them. He's been terrific the last 4 or 5 games before the last 2. And so, we talked about it, and I think the previous episode, like, we got to give credit when credit is due. He's been terrific this season, in my opinion, and he's knocked down shots and been, somebody that's been reliable from 3. I mean, last game he was 2 for 5. That's 40%. Fuck, you know what I mean? Like, what, is he gonna make all of them? You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I get where they're coming from, but also sometimes I think he gets the raw end of the deal on people analyzing his stats. I don't know. I take offense to that a little bit, because how's it just rested on his shoulders?
Right. I don't think it's resting on any one player's shoulders. It's the team game, obviously.
100%. Our post players need to be efficient.
Yeah.
Graham needs to be efficient. He needs to not get technicals. He knows that. He's terrific. He needs to just play. Brady needs to be efficient off the bench. Dusty Stromer needs to make some threes, because he's a catch and shoot 3 guy, blah, blah, blah. Ryan, when they go underneath, he needs to punish them every once in a while and go 2 for 5. That's fine. You know what I mean? And Khalif Battle needs to make threes. He was 1 for 6 last game, right? You know what I mean? And then the game before, what was he? The game before was, let's see, 1 for 7.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's getting opportunities, and he's still scoring. Yeah. And like I mentioned earlier, I went on that. But if he can, go 3 for 7 and then 2 for 6, or 3 for 6, obviously, then he's going and flirting with the upper 20s, 30s, and then that makes him really dynamic. And he knows that, and the players know that. Yeah. That's not even like a great deep analytical take or anything like that. It's just the reality. So
I was going to mention, so speaking of KB, he picked up a technical foul against LMU.
Mm-hmm.
You on the broadcast mentioned that players should be getting fined.
Yeah.
And come to find out, reported by Theo Lawson of the Spokesman, he said that they're actually paying fines and for technical fouls up to $5,000.
Yeah, it's the NBA is I think a $5K minimum, and then it goes up on a scale. But yeah, if you're getting NIL money, then how's it also going to stop?
Totally. No.
And so I agree with it, and I don't know what Coach Few would do with the money. Sometimes what we used to do, I know NBA is different, but guys are paid now, and that's not the NBA. It's not the same level of contracts, obviously, but we used to shoot for the money, or they would, give it to a charity or something like that, just whatever. But I think if you're late, if you're late to any shoot around bus, and then like you can even go, okay, if you're like, you don't have an 80% rebounding efficiency, like where you're going every time, we can find you like $500. In LA, Phil Jackson used to have he called them silly fines, and then there was real fines. But like if you were late to a bus, and it was never like egregious, but like 30 seconds late, he'd be like, silly fine, you $200. Okay. But we'd shoot for it at the end. So they would they would keep it together for about 2 weeks, and then the next road trip we'd shoot for it. It's kind of cool. So like sometimes you win $500 extra as a group. You'd shoot for it like in pair, or usually groups of 3. We'd do the old, first team to 5, catch it, rebound, like everybody does. And so that was kind of funny, but it's called like silly fines. Like, oh, you didn't box out on that play and there was Frank Hamlin, rest in peace, was this guy. Frank, silly fine, he'd write it down, and then he would take it out of your per diem. So then when he gave you an envelope, it'd be, if it was short, you're like, what the? Oh yeah, I got silly fine. That's awesome. And then he shot for it. But yeah, I totally agree. Guys are getting paid now, man, and it's not a knock. But if you're going to get paid like a professional, there's certain things you can't do, and a technical is one of them. And I don't know what KB did.
I think he talked a little bit.
I think he talked after the whistle, and I think I was a big talker. I get it, but if it hurts the team, that's how you address it. So I get it. I think that was my immediate thought on the broadcast.
Is Gonzaga having a problem getting technicals? Like we've picked up I feel like it's been kind of consistent.
We've had 2, 3.
Is it 3?
So we had 3, but then we've had how many? We've had. Didn't we have 2 flagrants in the UCLA game?
Yeah.
I don't count those as technicals though, because they're different. They're in the field of play.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So so that's 5 that we're free throwing ball out. So whatever you want to. So yeah, it's kind of an issue. Yeah. And it could hurt you down the stretch in a big time game. It hurt us against, which the one Graham got against Santa Clara. We were down 9. He gets a technical, and then they make both free throws, then scores a 13-point game. They took the air, wind out of the sails, and
totally
air out of the building, whatever you want to say. And and then he got one against St. Mary's. I don't know. The St. Mary's one was kind of weak.
Yeah.
I heard the official. I know what he said, and so I thought it was kind of weak for the motion of the game, and I said that on the broadcast. He used a curse word, but he said it twice, is what the official goes, well, I let him go once, but then he said it again, so I was like, okay, I guess that counts. He was, he wasn't saying call the foul. He was saying added the extra word into it. It'll be interesting to see if our guys can kind of hone the emotional side of it into. But I don't want to be a hypocrite, because I was always flirting with technicals, and I rather have my guys be like that than docile or whatever, and not really ready to play. So I don't know. I kind of always look at it both ways.
Totally.
Do we get any listener questions?
Just one. It comes from, since yesterday was the Super Bowl. The question is, should the day after the Super Bowl be a holiday?
100%. It should be a national holiday, paid. Why not? I think it would spur the economy too. Like, you could argue that. Like,
totally,
people have day off, so they go out and shop or whatever. And then Super Bowl, Amazon Super Bowl day,
exactly.
Whatever. You know what I mean?
No, it's true.
Super Bowl sale or whatever. But even though you can't say Super Bowl, you're supposed to pay big game. That's true. You don't have the licensing rights.
Totally.
It's always funny to listen to those commercials for the big game. It's like, oh, they can't even say Super Bowl. It sucks.
I've kind of always wondered, like, they've pushed the Super Bowl out so far that next week is President's Day. Like,
Yeah, just add it to that.
Add it to that.
I
Like,
know. That's a good point.
Just so we can have the day off and people can go out and let loose if they want to.
I think it would be brilliant. I think that and like daylight savings time needs to be changed.
Yeah.
I think that's just dumb too. Like, why does it have to be 4 o'clock and the sun goes down and everybody gets more depressed? But yeah, I think it's an absolute great idea. Hopefully it could happen, but Congress doesn't work, so who cares? You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, hopefully, like I said, this is a big week for us. San Francisco's a big one. Chance to go in second with a game, tiebreaker, quad 2. So yeah, hopefully the people watching and going to the game understand the magnitude of it. You know, it's been a while since we've had one of these where I'm like, holy shit, you know, if we lose this, we're just gonna be fighting and scratching and clawing to get into that, you know, that Sunday or whatever they do, Monday night game, the the semifinal game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm used to. We always fly down, just in case. But it's always nice because I get like 2 days off, 2.5 days off. So it's just like, oh, I'm gonna go play poker for 20 hours straight. Why not? And then sleep the rest of the day, and then do it again, and then we have a game now. I can go back to work, but. Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Kind of just an update. The rankings just came in for the top 25. Gonzaga's not in it, but they are receiving votes, and they're 10th in receiving votes. So technically, if they were to extend the rankings, we'd be 35.
35
in the rankings.
Yeah,
so.
That stuff kind of matters.
Yeah,
but I think the Ken Palm in the net matters more. The 14 in the net is one of those deals that is something we'll keep monitoring, and obviously the 3-point shooting, like I said. Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you for listening. Thank you to McGillivray Environmental, Idaho Central Credit Union. See you next week.
Working this graveyard shift, I hate it. 6 in the morning, I'm off, I made it. When I get home, I'ma make this clear. First thing I'ma drink is a Rainier beer. I ain't no lush, shut up, hush. This is how I zone out. I'ma take this check, put it on me. I'm a much better boss than an employee. Just cause you got time, don't waste time. It's about time, feel the sunshine. You got time, but don't waste time. It's go time. Employee, I'm an employee cause I go OD on a BEAT. I'm a young OG, been killing these raps since 03. So when a supervisor told me do this, do that.
The podcast intro song is Get Up by Jinx Universe. Listen to his music on Spotify and follow him on social media at I am Jinx Universe. Produced locally in Spokane, Washington at Spocast.